Hello, and welcome to Adapt or Perish. You look nice. Are those new glasses? Before we get to this week's episode, Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, I wanted to say a quick word about our next episode. So in our 14 episodes so far, there's one area we haven't addressed yet: children's books. And with National Children's Book Week coming up from April 30th to May 6th, there's a very special adaptation we've decided to cover. Now, we've spent a lot of time looking at things like depressing dystopian literature. So when it came time to switch gears and look at a kid's book, we decided to go with depressing dystopian children's literature, against all odds and expectations. In 2 weeks, Adapt or Perish will be covering Lois Lowry's The Giver, as well as the 2014 movie adaptation starring Jeff Bridges and Meryl Streep. You can find out more about National Children's Book Week from Every Child a Reader at their website, everychildareader.net. And now, on with the show, Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. Welcome to Adapt or Perish, a podcast about adaptation. My name is Jeremy Latour.
And I'm Arielle Lipshaw.
It is very nice to have everybody with us right now.
Hello.
Are you excited about this episode?
I'm super excited.
This episode actually ended up being so much more fun than I expected it to be.
Yeah, I think this is the first, or at least one of the first that we've done that we loved everything.
I enjoyed all of it.
All of it. We just had so much fun watching and reading and talking about the topic of this episode.
Would you like to tell everybody the book we're talking about this week?
Yes, we are talking about Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express.
I really like the cover of the book because it says Hercule Poirot solves murder on the Orient Express.
And indeed he does.
Indeed he does.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we need to get something right out of the way here at the beginning.
Okay, go for it.
One thing, some feedback we've gotten from people is that some people don't listen to every episode because maybe it's not about something they haven't read. But we also have heard from some people who like listening to all the episodes, even if it's something they don't really know much about, because they like us, which is fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I listen to a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
Now, here's the thing, though. I want to get something out of the way for this episode. This is an episode where we really recommend if you've never read it and you've never seen any of the movies that have been made of it, you should watch at least one of them before you listen to this episode.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And so somehow I managed to get through my entire life without knowing the answer to the mystery of the Murder on the Orient Express, although apparently it's in the culture. Apparently that never reached me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember getting towards the end of the book, like literally like the last 10 or 15 pages going, oh my God, how are they going to solve this? What's going to happen? And it was genuinely thrilling and suspenseful.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend that experience to anyone.
Right. So we are giving you fair warning. And to prove like how much we mean this, literally right after I say this next part, I am going to spoil the ending. I'm just going to get it out of the way. Okay?
Do you want to do like a count of three?
Okay, so on 3. All right? 1, 2, 3. Everybody did it. Everybody did it. Everyone is guilty. All of the suspects killed the guy.
Yes.
They all killed. It was a conspiracy. They all did it together.
Yes.
So the whole book is, you're thinking which one of them did it, and there's too many coincidences, and it's crazy. Turns out they all did it.
They all did it.
And so I tried doing some research about this.
Okay.
And I couldn't find anything conclusive. And if there's anyone who's listening who's more of an expert on this, I would love to find out more. Because to me, this feels like basically the seminal subversive mystery work.
It was incredibly well plotted.
Mm-hmm.
And even stuff from the beginning that you would think this is nothing, a lot of it turned out to be important at the end. Just the actual novel itself, which is really interesting because when we talked about Hound of the Baskervilles, if you remember, one of the things that we talked about was when you're talking about a mystery, it's really hard to cut the plot when you're adapting it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time there is stuff that is important that won't make sense because it's a clue, right? To who done it. And I thought all of these adaptations really kind of took that challenge and ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
almost all of them.
Almost all of them.
We'll get into
it.
So that's the reveal. Everyone did it.
Everyone did
as
it.
we talk about it, every time we're talking about the suspects, they are the murderers.
Yes.
Almost nearly all of the suspects are the murderers.
Yes.
The thing that I thought about constantly while we were reading this and watching all of the movies was the movie Clue.
Yes, one of the greatest movies of all time.
It's really, really fantastic because the whole thing in that movie is they released multiple endings in the theaters, but anyone of our generation had no idea about that.
Right. I had no idea. I mean, I knew that there were 3 different endings from the VHS tape, but I did not know that any given showing that you went to, you only saw one of them. I had no idea.
One of the things I love, I picked up a Blu-ray of it recently, and among the special features were simply alternate endings. And it's like that's just part of the movie.
He just put special features in air quotes.
Yeah. Sorry, air quotes, special features.
Yeah.
You can't say a special feature is just part of the movie.
Yeah.
But a couple of things, because in those in those alternate endings, the first 2 alternate endings say this person did it. But then in the final alternate ending, everybody did it.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating because it doesn't change any of the facts in evidence.
Right.
It's just a different explanation, which is pretty much exactly what happens at the end of Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah, Poirot gives 2 explanations for what could have happened.
And then he says, which one are we going to go with, friends?
And so I really think whether they were referencing Murder on the Orient Express specifically, it's part of the culture.
Oh, totally.
And I don't think Clue would have been the movie that it was if it wasn't specifically for Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah.
And I tried to see if there were other mystery stories that play with audience expectations the way this did. And I couldn't really find anything, but there may be something big staring me in the face. And please write us in and let us know if you know of
I don't
one.
think either of us are like mystery experts.
Yeah.
That's not like
Certainly
our genre.
not. Certainly not.
Particularly.
So that's the reveal.
Yeah.
We've got that out of the way. You're all with us. You know something about it, or you already knew.
Or you're really mad.
Yeah,
because
you didn't stop.
Right.
And now you know that everybody did it.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the book a little bit.
Yeah,
What'd you think?
I thought it was great. I loved it. It was a real quick read. I definitely recommend it. I read it, I think, on a Saturday.
Yep.
And it really grabs your attention. Poirot, I had never read any other Agatha Christie before. I never read any other Poirot. This was my first
And there's
time.
certainly no other literary detective that's very important to you.
There is another literary detective who's very important to me. And I guess I think that's true. I think I always kind of thought you were either a Sherlock Holmes person or a Poirot person. And I was a Sherlock Holmes person. I am a Sherlock Holmes person. So I never thought to get into Poirot because I thought, my heart can't possibly be in both camps at once.
And it turns out there is room in your heart for a short Belgian man.
With mustaches.
I love Poirot.
I loved him. He's great. I'm definitely going to read more Poirot.
Yeah. One of the things we did, because neither of us have ever watched the David Suchet Poirot series.
I'd never seen a single episode.
We watched a little bit for this, which we're going to get into in a little bit. Kind of at the end of the episode, we're really going to talk about Poirot, the character, and the way he's represented in all of the adaptations that we watched. But neither of us had ever watched any of those.
No.
And he's so much more interesting than I thought he would be.
Oh, yeah. He's great. I think we both had this feeling that he was just like, there are just so many mystery shows, so many British mystery shows, like that they're always like, a nun solves crimes in her small village where there have been 27 murders in the last week, there's just so many of that genre. And I guess I didn't really think about Poirot as being sort of more on the literary Sherlock Holmes side than the common, if you will, mystery genre. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean to say that to be insulting, but there are lots of mystery shows that operate on that same sort of premise, and this is not that.
But I definitely want to read some more Agatha Christie at some point.
Yeah, me too.
I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed this book a great deal. I just thought it was so easy to read. It really just clipped along. It was so well segmented. Like, she really writes it in a way where every single chapter is about a very specific thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost more like case notes than, you know what I mean? Like, it's very well structured, and the way that the characters are described, really lends itself to an adaptation because they're very specific in how they're described and like what their motivations are.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
So that's the book.
Yep, totally.
I really enjoyed it. I recommend that anybody read it.
It was great.
If you haven't read it.
Yeah, there's not much more to say.
So the way we're going to do this episode is we're going to talk about all the characters first. We've got to talk about all of them. And we're going to talk about, because there's so many to get through, I think we're really just going to talk about our favorite versions of the characters.
Right. So this would probably be a good time to talk about which versions we watched.
Yeah. So we watched several different ones.
We did.
We collectively, together, watched 3 versions.
Yes.
And I watched a 4th version.
Which we're going to talk about that at the end.
We'll save it for the end.
Save it for the end. But let's just concentrate for now on the 3 main ones that we watched together.
And you may be saying, why are you saving one to the end? I want to hear about it now.
You'll find out.
Don't worry. It's not good. So we'll talk about it.
Don't trouble your pretty little heads about it.
I would say probably the most famous version of it was the 1974 version directed by Sidney Lumet.
Okay.
That was with Albert Finney
as Poirot.
And let me just read this cast off really quickly.
No, like I will just pause to say this cast was insane. Like this is a star-studded cast. Okay, please go on.
Lauren Bacall, Martin Balsam, Ingrid Bergman, Jacqueline Bisset, Jean-Pierre Cassel, Sean Connery, John Gielgud, Wendy Hiller, Anthony Perkins, Vanessa Redgrave, Rachel Roberts, Richard Widmark, and Basil Exposition himself, Michael York.
Who had like 3 lines.
It's a hell of a cast.
Michael York was not in it very much.
This is a prestige picture.
Oh my gosh.
Definitely a prestige picture.
It was super enjoyable to watch. It was very 70s. It was very campy.
And it clearly, from everything I've seen, it clearly is the version that everyone considers to be the definitive version. It seems to be many people's favorite version.
I mean, it was great.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
But let's talk about it.
Yeah. We also watched the 2010 TV version from the David Suchet Poirot series.
Yes.
So the David Suchet, they did several series in like the late 80s, early 90s, and then they took like a decade and a half off.
Yeah, this was a lot more recent, and it was like movie length. It was like 90 minutes.
Kind of Poirot came back.
Yeah.
So these were, David Suchet was older, it was an older Poirot, and so it was a TV movie.
Yeah.
Done in 2010.
Which is surprising, and we thought maybe it was because they didn't have the budget. Like, it's just surprising to me that they did all of this Poirot and never did Murder on the Orient Express. And then they came back to it like decades later.
Budget makes the most sense.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. And it's very filmic. It really...
I would imagine they wanted to do it justice.
And they did.
Yeah.
I think they did.
Spoiler.
But like, some of the people that are in it, Eileen Atkins is the Princess Dragomirov, Hugh Bonneville, Jessica Chastain, Barbara Hershey, Toby Jones is in it.
This is also a star-studded cast.
David Morrissey. It's certainly maybe slightly lower.
Yeah,
like
I mean, the 74 version, those were all movie stars in the 70s.
These are all a lot of TV stars.
Yeah.
A lot of TV stars.
Well, Jessica Chastain. Well, she wasn't at the time, I guess.
Right.
Like, she's a big deal now.
Then we also watched the 2017 version starring and directed by Kenneth Branagh.
Yes.
And also with a star-studded cast.
Yes.
This just came out last year. This is the one that was starring Penelope Cruz, Willem Dafoe, Judi Dench, Josh Gad, Derek Jacobi, Leslie Odom Jr., Michelle Pfeiffer, Daisy Ridley, Johnny Depp.
Yeah. So this is clearly an amazing vehicle if you have like 12 really famous people that you want to kind of throw into a movie together.
Yeah.
Because it was the same with all 3 of these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This was a rare instance where we enjoyed every single version that we watched.
Every single one. Nothing. I mean, I have notes and we're going to talk about stuff, but nothing was not enjoyable. Like, we have definitely watched stuff before that I'm squirming on the couch going, oh my God, I can't believe we have to watch this. It's terrible.
And I feel like, I don't know what you think about this. I feel like the biggest differences between all of them really had to do mostly with Poirot. Had to do with the character of Poirot and the journey he goes on through the movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So we're going to talk about Poirot at the end.
Yeah, let's talk about this crazy bunch of characters.
Oh my God, this crazy cast of characters. So the first person that we should talk about is whom?
Oh, I have my list right here.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about
them.
them.
We had to keep a list because there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. So here's the structure. We had to make a structure because there is a crap ton of people in this book. So there are some civilians who are not suspects.
Right.
Then there is the victim.
There's one victim.
Then there are a whole bunch of suspects, which varied slightly from version to version.
Yes.
And then there is the man himself, Hercule Poirot.
Hercule Poirot.
Poirot. Yes. So let's start with the civilians. We can be real quick about this.
Yeah.
Monsieur Bouc.
Bouc.
So at the beginning of the book, so let's set this up.
At the beginning of the book.
At the beginning, at the beginning of the book, and I think every version, basically Poirot is returning from the Middle East, where he has just solved a crime that has helped the British Army in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And they make it slightly different, I think, in every version.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, he's being escorted back to the Orient Express by a British officer. So he's on a ferry and a train, and the train is stopping in what they call Istanbul. And he thinks he's going to stop over there for a few days and relax. And at the hotel, he gets a telegram to say, actually, you're needed in London right away. So he's like, oh no, I need to get on the Orient Express. And there the book begins.
Mm-hmm.
But in that hotel, he runs into his friend, Monsieur Bouc, who is conveniently the director of the train.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets him on the train. He was not supposed to be on the train. It was a big surprise. They almost don't have room for him, which is very surprising.
Yeah, at this time of year, the train is never full.
The train is never full.
But this particular time, everyone wanted to travel on the Orient Express.
Everyone wants to travel with the whole world travels with us tonight,
Mm-hmm.
they said. And so Monsieur Bouc, what is your impression of Monsieur Bouc from version to version?
So Mr. Bouc is someone I always enjoy.
Yes.
I like him in every single version. He is alternately Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he is English.
Sometimes he's French.
Sometimes he is French. In one of the versions, he is German.
Yeah.
He's different in every
He's
single
different
one.
in every single one.
He actually gets to be really, really different in every single one.
Yeah.
In one of the versions, they're acquaintances. They've met before.
Kind of have met before.
But Poirot doesn't really know him that well.
Yeah.
But Bouc is very excited because it's the world famous Hercule Poirot.
Yeah.
In the 1974
They
version,
are best buds.
they're really, really tight.
It's really cute. That was my favorite. I think that was my favorite Bouc, actually, because I loved that he and Poirot were such good buds.
Yeah. I really like their relationship. It's Martin Balsam in that one, who's great. But he's very Italian. He's very, very Italian.
Yeah.
I think my favorite version was actually 2017.
Yeah?
I like British Bouc. He's
the
very
young hot Bouc.
young. He's a cad.
Yeah.
He's really a cad and very
He's a libertine.
and very unapologetic about it.
Yeah, he's great.
I really enjoy
And
their
he's like,
relationship.
yeah, this is not a real job. My uncle owns the train.
Yeah,
I'm just here.
It's great. I think my favorite version was 2017.
Yeah, I that's a good one for me. But I actually really liked the older Bouc, who's really good friends with Poirot.
I'd say probably 2010 is actually probably the most book accurate, but he's not my favorite.
Yeah.
He was fine.
He's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We got to move along at a
we
steady
got to move
clip on
along. Yeah, we
these.
got to move along.
So that's Bouc.
Bouc is not super important.
And one other thing about Bouc.
Yeah.
Bouc becomes the audience.
Yeah, he is
in the book.
not a suspect.
He is the one that Poirot is explaining everything to throughout the course
Right.
of the book. He's really our stand-in. He's the one Poirot can explain everything to so we can know what's going on.
Yeah, and the great thing about Poirot, which I guess we'll come to, but the great thing about Poirot, unlike other characters, Sherlock Holmes, he is actually perfectly willing to explain exactly what he's thinking, like at any given time, which is really nice, sort of for storytelling.
His storytelling is important.
Yeah. That is he is not someone that needs to keep everything close to the vest.
So there is one other civilian. There's one other person on the train who is not a suspect.
Yes.
And that is whom?
There is a Greek doctor in the other compartment. And he is a suspect. Well, in the book, he's not a suspect. He's just the doctor.
Yes.
He is a doctor, and he examines the victim, and he is a doctor. In the 1974 version, he is a mad old man. He is very...
He's got crazy hair.
He's got crazy hair, and he's just out of it, and he is above suspicion.
And he's a lot of fun.
He's real fun. He's definitely like my favorite. In the 2010 version, they actually mix it up a little bit, and he is actually one of the suspects.
Yeah. So I want to say something about the reveal.
Yes.
So the whole idea is everyone on the train has come together to murder the victim that we're going to talk about in a minute.
1 second, yeah.
They all have a connection to him. And Poirot, in the final scene, basically reveals, here's your connection to him, here's your connection, here's your connection, here's why all of you had a motive to kill him.
That's right.
The doctor was never part of that.
Right.
In the 2010 version, he's going around the room and he gets to the doctor and suddenly he's like, and you had this connection to him. And we're both like, holy shit. Because the doctor never had a connection.
No,
that's
they
new.
made
That's
that up.
That's invented, but
Yeah.
it worked really, really
It
well.
worked great, actually.
I think as we talk about this, we're going to give out all the pieces of the plot.
Yeah, totally.
But again, we're assuming you have seen one of these.
Right.
So
And if you haven't, what are you doing? Go listen. Go watch.
my favorite version of the Doctor is the 2010 version.
Yeah, because he's part of it.
He's not Greek anymore. He's British.
He's
and
British,
he's younger.
and he's like totally out of his depth, but he thinks he's a detective.
Major goofball.
Yeah.
I like him. Now, it turns, because constantly throughout that version of it, he's saying to Poirot, there are all these clues that have been presented to show, basically lead Poirot in the wrong direction.
Right.
They all kill this guy, and they're thinking, oh shit, we've got the most famous detective in the world on this train. We need to throw him off the scent. So he is trying to add credence to all of these new theories. So he's going, oh, well, this is here and this is here, so the killer must have gotten away through here.
Yeah.
And he's a delight. And it turns out he's not just a goofball
He's trying
that
to put
doesn't
him off the
understand.
scent.
He's trying to put him off the scent.
Yeah.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, the note that I actually wrote down was the Doctor is ridiculous in every version, but that was that was in the 2010 version before I realized he was a suspect. I just thought he was a goofball.
I really like 2010.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. Now, Doctor, he doesn't appear in the 2017 version.
No, he is conflated with another character.
Yes, who we'll get to
we'll
in a
get
little
to
bit.
in a moment. But suffice it to say, for now, there is no separate Doctor from a different suspect who we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the civilians.
Let's talk about the victim.
Let's talk about the murder victim.
Yeah.
He's the titular murderer on the Orient Express.
His name is Mr. Ratchet
Or
Cassetti.
Whoa.
Oh.
So what is the central point of the plot? Why has this man died?
Okay.
Would you like to explain it to
I would
everybody?
love to explain it. Thank you. So this man is on the Orient Express, and we learn is in fear for his life. He thinks someone is coming to kill him. And we find that he's correct, because someone does come to kill him. Many someones come to kill him. And what is revealed through some machinations and a hat box is that he is a murderer.
Mm-hmm. Who did he murder?
Not only a murderer, he is a child murderer. Like, he's clearly set up to be the most evil guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you have absolutely no sympathy for him. The fact that he was murdered. Like, there is nothing that, other than sort of Poirot's existential crisis, which we'll come to, which is people shouldn't murder other people.
Yeah.
Which is true.
I'm on board.
Yeah. Like, he's the worst. So basically we learn that there was an American family, a very rich American family called
Go on.
called the Armstrongs.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a little girl who was kidnapped and murdered. So it's basically the Lindbergh baby.
Yeah.
Is that what you were going to say?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
So it's the Lindbergh baby. So Daisy Armstrong was kidnapped and murdered. Her mother, Sonia Armstrong, basically went at learning of her toddler daughters, like she was like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Learning of her death, went into premature labor with her next baby, and they both died.
Mm-hmm.
And then the father, John Armstrong, shot himself. And a housemaid in the house who was accused of the crime and later found to be, or not accused of the crime, but accused of being like part of the plot,
Mm-hmm.
later found to be totally innocent, she killed herself.
Yeah.
So this man was responsible for the deaths of 5 innocent people.
Right. Super evil.
Including a little child.
Yep.
So super evil, no compassion for him. He's the worst. So at the time, his name was Cassetti. And we are given to understand that this crime was like the crime of the century. It's like the O.J. Simpson trial. Everyone is aware that this thing happened. Everyone is aware of all of these people. It was in the newspaper. It was this, it was that. So Cassetti, obviously, he got off for reasons that aren't super important.
Well, no. So in the book, he's not the one who murdered the child.
Yeah, he was like the getaway driver.
Cassetti was in charge. Cassetti was in charge of everything. So they did get the person who killed the kid, but he got off because they had no evidence. But he was in charge.
Right.
And he
masterminded it.
They changed that in some of the versions.
Yeah.
Like in the 2010 version, he actually did kill her.
Yeah.
I think in the 2017 version, he killed her too.
I think so too.
Which I think is a good way to change the story.
Think so too.
I have no problem with that.
Like you want him. The whole point is he is the worst guy.
Yes.
Like we need to have information about him that makes us understand he is irredeemable and awful.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this.
Yes.
In all of the versions that we watched, did anything stand out to you?
A couple things.
What's that?
Well, this is sort of what I was going towards. So he has changed his name.
Yeah.
And he is living incognito as like a art dealer, but like of forgeries. Like he's definitely a criminal. Like he's a bad guy. He's traveling around Europe and whatever. And he gets killed, right? And everyone's going, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And there's a whole series of events that leads Poirot. Poirot has to deduce who he is. There's like basically there's a burned scrap of paper in the room that he is able, through the use of a hat box. I love this thing about the hat box. Sidebar. This is actually a really good example of a story where the adaptation lends something. So basically, they're in a hat box, apparently. There are these
in the 30s.
In the 30s, there are these sort of these like wire frames that the hat rests on, so the hat doesn't like fall out of shape. And when I was reading this, and he basically takes the burnt piece of paper between those wire frames and then like puts a flame underneath it so he can read the words like as the scrap of paper crumbles to ash. But as I was reading this, I was like, I cannot picture what this is. I do not understand what they are talking about. Why does it have to be a hat box? Why can't they get like just a piece of wire? I don't understand. And then in the movie, I was like, or the first one we watched, which was the 1974 one, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I get it. I understand totally.
Yep. Hat box.
Hat box.
Yep. We're not even going to explain it.
Yeah. Watch the movie if you want it explained. But so basically my point is that this is the most famous case, right? And if you saw O.J. Simpson walking down the street, you'd be like, holy shit, that's O.J. Simpson.
It's the juice.
It's that guy.
Run, O.J. Run.
Well, no, you can call the police because he's a murderer.
It's from a movie.
Okay. So the whole point is that this guy is incognito, right? And in the 1974 one, I don't even really remember what he looks like, which is correct.
Right, exactly.
Right? In the 2010 version, he is portrayed by an actor named Toby Jones, who's been in a lot of things.
He is a face you would recognize.
Toby Jones, and I don't mean to say he's unattractive. I just mean to say, in sort of a Steve Buscemi way, is extremely distinctive looking.
Yeah.
And no one could possibly, if this is the most famous murder case of all time, if he gets on the train, every single person in the world, in the train station, in the city, on the train, would be like, oh, that's that murderer guy.
100%.
So
100%.
I feel like that was a failure of casting.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
So I thought Toby Jones was good.
Yeah.
But my favorite version was actually Johnny Depp in the 2017 version.
Tell me about it.
I really like the fact that I think this is good casting. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you a reason why. And this isn't necessarily going to reflect well on Johnny Depp.
Okay.
He's not doing so well right now in the press and in the world.
No.
Lots of people have a problem with him.
Hashtag me too.
I actually think that's kind of brilliant casting because he's someone you're already supposed to not have a lot of sympathy for.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be a little okay with something bad happening to him.
Yeah. Have I talked about my favorite example of this in any movie ever?
I don't know. I
have
a favorite example of it, but what's yours?
In the movie Gosford Park,
mm-hmm.
There is an actor.
Oh yeah, you have told me about this, but please tell everybody because I like this a lot.
I don't know that I've talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
So
small spoiler alert for Gosford Park.
Which came out like 15 years
Here's
ago.
the deal. You have 30 seconds to say this because I want everyone to be able to skip ahead 30 seconds.
And go.
Yep.
Ryan Philippe is playing a Scottish valet to one of the people in the upstairs region, and as you, a human being, are watching the movie, you think, wow, that's Ryan Philippe, heartthrob of the 90s. He's sure got a terrible Scottish accent. And it turns out that that is part of the plot, that he is an American actor posing as a Scottish valet. And I think that's such perfect casting, because if it was anybody else, you wouldn't think of it. But because it's Ryan Philippe, it's just the point is really driven home.
It was beautifully done.
Thank you, my dear.
My favorite. Can I talk about my favorite one?
Yes, please do.
We're getting far afield.
That's okay. We're just gonna have to only give like 1.5 seconds to each of the characters.
I'm just gonna say who my favorite person was.
Go ahead.
There's a movie called The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, and it's the character of Jesse James is played by Brad Pitt, and he also produced it. And I remember when I heard about this movie, I thought, oh, it's just Brad Pitt. He wants to play Jesse James.
It's a vanity project.
It's a vanity project. And then I saw it. I recommend that everybody see it. It is a wonderful movie. And the whole idea is Jesse James is a celebrity.
Right.
When people see his face, they know who he is. So who better to cast than Brad Pitt to actually relate that to a modern audience? I thought it was brilliant.
So basically what you're saying is, in this movie, Kenneth Branagh, the director, cast someone who everybody hates right now as someone that you are supposed to hate deeply.
I bet that is not what happened, but God damn it worked out that way.
It's very convenient.
Yeah. And okay. I want to be clear too, I'm not judging Johnny Depp. However, it works out well, and also I think he's really good in it. Mm-hmm. He only has a few scenes
because he dies,
and he works really, really well.
He gets murdered to death.
There is the scene. Basically, Cassetti asks Poirot he tries to hire him to protect him.
Yeah.
And it's the scene where Poirot says no.
Yeah.
Their scene together is my favorite version of that scene.
Oh, it's a really good scene.
Of any of the versions of it.
Yeah.
There's a line from the book where Poirot says, "Why won't you take my kiss?" And Poirot says, "I do not like your face."
Yeah.
And the way Kenneth Branagh does that line is great, and Ratchet's reaction to it in that scene is perfect.
Yeah.
I really, really like that scene, and then he dies soon after that. Mm-hmm. So Johnny Depp is my favorite Ratchet. Gonna put that down. Put that down.
I'll write that down.
Cool. So that's the victim.
Let's move on to the suspects. There are 12 suspects.
Yes.
Remember that.
Mm-hmm.
12 suspects. And 12 members of a jury.
Right. And
12 good men and true.
There's actually not 12 suspects.
There's 13.
There's 13, which is important. So I'm going to start the clock. We're going to get through all of them. I'm starting the clock for 3 hours. Go.
Okay.
We're going to try to do this a little quicker.
Okay. Our first suspect is Pierre Michel. He is the conductor of the train.
But in reality, his daughter was the person who was wrongly accused of being complicit in the murder of Daisy Armstrong and threw herself out of a window. So he has an axe to grind.
Yes.
So who's your favorite version of Pierre Michel?
He's the same. He's the same in all of them.
He is the same.
Except in the 2017 one where they try to make him young and hot, so it's his sister, not his daughter.
Yes. So my favorite version of him, even though he's roughly the same in all of them, was actually the 2010 version because he's played by an actor named Denis Ménochet.
Okay.
He played the character of Lapadite in the first scene of Inglourious Bastards.
Cool. Which,
if anyone has seen that movie, I just want to say who he is.
I haven't seen it.
That scene is wonderful.
Okay.
And he's very, very good. He does a lot with very little, and I really, really like him as an actor. He is my favorite version of the character.
Great. Cool. Should we move on?
We should move on.
Fantastic. Second suspect is the secretary of the murdered man, McQueen.
Who, in fact, is the son of the prosecutor in the case against Cassetti.
Who
failed,
effed it up and let him go for whatever reason.
The whole thing right the F up.
And he knew Sonia Armstrong.
He had a big crush on her.
Big old crush on her.
Big crush on her.
So in the 1974 version, he's played by Anthony Perkins.
Yes.
I thought he was terrible.
Real bad. Like
he sounded
not bad, just not great.
But I turned to you at one point and I was like, he's American, right? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, he sounds like he's British doing a bad American accent. I don't know what that was about.
It's very strange. But who'd you like?
It was extremely overwrought. I liked the 2010 guy.
Yeah,
I liked him. Mm-hmm. I thought he was great. Who was the 2017 guy? What's his name?
Josh Gad.
Josh Gad. Yeah.
He's my favorite.
He's great. He just seemed a little modern to me. I liked the 2010 one. I
really like Josh Gad. Mm-hmm. I thought they gave him a lot of really good bit of business to do where he's trying to. There's some action in the 2017 version where he's trying to burn the ledger because he was the secretary for Ratchet and he's trying to burn the ledger and Poirot chases him after him and it's this whole thing.
Oh, because it turns out he's been stealing from him.
Yeah,
which is not in any other version.
He was actually my favorite version of the character.
Yes.
I thought the 2017 one got the character of McQueen done really, really well. Mm-hmm. I thought they did a great job with him.
Cool.
So that's McQueen.
Awesome. Number 3, the valet, Masterson.
Yeah, so he's Ratchet's valet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Who was, in fact,
Armstrong's valet.
Armstrong's Batman in the war.
In the war.
So he loved Armstrong.
Yes.
And is very, very mad at Ratchet.
Yes.
That's his whole thing.
He is the Woodhouse to Ratchet's Archer.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the 1974 version, gotta be my favorite, even ranks higher than the 2017 one, who is also a giant of stage and screen. But 1974 is Sir John Gielgud.
Oh, full stop.
100%.
Full stop. It's John Gielgud.
It's so good.
I think it is good to mention that Hugh Bonneville played him in 2010.
He's great.
And Derek Jacobi played him in 2017. None of them are bad.
No.
Every single one of them is good and brings something to it, but John Gielgud is John Gielgud, and that shouldn't reflect poorly on any of them.
No, nobody else is John Gielgud.
No, only John Gielgud, in fact, is John Gielgud.
And if you want to see a long-form John Gielgud playing an amazing butler, please watch Arthur, starring Dudley Moore and Liza Minnelli.
Yeah. Oh, he's wonderful in it.
So good.
He's so good in it.
Should we move on?
Let's move on.
Are we good? Okay. Suspect number 4, the American lady, Mrs. Hubbard.
Ah, yes. Who is, in fact, the matriarch of the Armstrong family.
She's the thing that ties the whole thing together.
She brought everyone to this. Her daughter was Sonia Armstrong. Her granddaughter was Daisy Armstrong. She is a wonderful actress of the stage.
Linda Arden is her name.
Linda Arden
Turns
is
out
her
she's
stage
Jewish.
name. Yeah, which is
out.
true. So she is the brains of the operation.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw something out there.
Go ahead.
In the 2017 version, she's played by Michelle Pfeiffer.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2010 version, she's played by Barbara Hershey.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1974 version, she's played by Lauren fucking Bacall.
Yes.
And I don't really think any of them kind of stack up
Against
Lauren Bacall.
Oh, no. She's freaking Lauren Bacall. So this was the quote I wrote down from you. So Poirot is talking to this character at one point in the 1974 one, and you said, he's quoting Greta Garbo to Lauren Bacall.
Yep, that happened.
That definitely happened.
That happened. Lauren Bacall is my favorite. She's a goddamn movie star.
And it's interesting, actually, because none of them are the character as portrayed in the book. In the book, she's supposed to be very like matronly and homely, and dowdy. And I think all taking their cue from the 1974 one, she's really sexy. She's like a sexy older lady, and she's always talking about like, oh, I know what it's like to have a man in my bedroom and my second husband. Well, in the book, the person she's always referring to is her daughter. My daughter said this. My daughter said that.
Yeah, she's playing an annoying character.
She's playing an annoying
intentionally.
character. Intentionally.
Because she's a great actor.
Yeah, so I feel like this is a really good time to talk about something that I noticed that we've talked about a little bit, which is that a lot of the time, and we've mentioned this before with a couple of other adaptations, that when you get into sort of later versions, you realize that they're not actually going all the way back to the original source material.
Mm-hmm.
They're adapting the first adaptation or the most famous adaptation. So this is a really good example because the 1974 character is a really big departure from how she's portrayed in the book. But then every subsequent adaptation is an adaptation of the Lauren Bacall character from the 1974 movie, not Mrs. Hubbard from the book. And there are a couple other examples of that. One is we'll talk about when we get to Arbuthnot, and the other one is the missionary character. Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting that they chose not to go all the way back to the book, but to a previous adaptation, which had been a big change from the book.
Yeah, I think we did see that a number of times.
We've talked about this. We talked about this with Little Women in particular. I remember. Yeah.
No, totally.
So.
Yeah. So that is Mrs. Hubbard.
Mrs. Hubbard. The next one is the Swedish lady, Greta Olsen.
Who was in fact. So she is a missionary.
Yes.
That's her whole thing. I'm a missionary.
Right. Well, in the book, she's not a missionary. She's a cook or a matron at a missionary school.
Right.
But in every adaptation, she is like a fervent religious missionary.
Right. And one of the reasons she is so religious is because she was in fact the caretaker of Daisy Armstrong.
Yes.
And the nursemaid in Daisy Armstrong was kidnapped and killed under her care.
Her watch.
And she ran to Jesus.
She did. She went to Jesus.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this. If you are in 1974 and you need to cast a Swedish character for a high-budget, star-studded movie, who are you going to get?
I'd probably try to get Ingrid Bergman.
They got Ingrid Bergman!
But she probably wouldn't be available.
No,
wait,
they got her.
Wait, they got her?
She's Ingrid Bergman!
Holy shit.
Yes.
She's the best one.
She's amazing.
She actually...
I have a proper crush on Ingrid Bergman.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that? Even
Sure.
though she's not with us, right?
I mean, I should find out really quickly.
No, you know who's still with us that I always mistake her for?
Yes.
Olivia de Havilland, who's
yes.
like literally 103 and is still alive.
Ingrid Bergman is super not with us. She died in 1982.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, not very long after this, actually.
She'd be 102 right now if she was still
but
alive.
Olivia de Havilland is 102.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
But Ingrid Bergman's dead. I'm sorry that yours is the love that will never be.
My love is for like Casablanca Ingrid Bergman, not 102-year-old dead Ingrid Bergman, so I think it's okay.
I think I told you about this, that one of my father's proudest moments is when I was a kid, we were watching something with Isabella Rossellini, and I said, she looks like Ingrid Bergman, and Mike was like, haha, let me tell you something about Hollywood history.
Let me tell you why.
He was so proud of me.
I'm
She is my favorite Olsen.
Yes.
She's my favorite, and can I talk about the one scene in particular?
The brown babies?
No. Well, yeah, it is that scene.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is Poirot is bringing all of these characters in for interrogations one by one. Her interrogation in the Sidney Lumet version is done in one take.
Mm-hmm.
It is the best performance. I would say that her performance in that scene is the best performance in any of the versions that we watched.
She shows every emotion that there is on her face all in one take.
It's one of the best scenes I've ever seen in any movie. I loved it.
And again, all of the subsequent versions are adapted from her, not from the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's very specific, like that she is a missionary and that she's like ultra religious. And in fact, the 2010 one, there's like some business at the beginning with like her St. Christopher medal. She loses her St. Christopher medal.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 2010 one, like it's the exact same thing. Like, she's trying to get on the train and she thinks she's lost her St. Christopher medal. That's not from the book. That's from the 1974 movie.
Right.
Yeah. Which is really interesting.
I do think Penelope Cruz should get an honorable mention.
She's great.
She's good. She doesn't get a lot to do.
No.
She doesn't have that many scenes in the movie. They
She
kind of cut
also
back on her a little bit.
has a lot of lip fillers for someone who's supposed to be a missionary.
Which is, I think... I don't know how fair that is.
I'm just saying. They could have toned that down.
But I think Ingrid Bergman she's Ingrid Bergman.
She's Ingrid Bergman.
She's the best one.
Yeah, she's really good.
Who's next?
Okay. The Russian princess.
Oh my goodness.
Princess Dragomirov.
She is living in France, right? She's an expatriate.
Yeah, she's an expatriate.
Yeah, because this is after the revolution.
Right.
She is living in France.
She's exiled.
And just traveling.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality,
yes,
she is the godmother of Daisy Armstrong.
But is also a Russian princess.
Well, no,
that part is true.
But she's not just traveling.
Right.
She was the godmother, super close to the Armstrongs, loved them, was
she
really close to their mom.
She was a big fan of Linda Arden, the grandmother of Daisy Armstrong.
And she is described in the book as famously ugly.
Like a toad.
Agatha Christie fucking hates this character.
Agatha Christie maybe thinks old women are icky.
Apparently. In the movies, she is played by people who are not famously ugly.
Famously beautiful.
She's Judi Dench in the 2017 version. She's Eileen Atkins in 2010.
Eileen Atkins is famously unusual looking.
She's not famously ugly.
No, she's not famously ugly.
She's famously fine looking.
You know what it is? She's played by people who are famously old.
Yes.
She's played by people who have been very old for a long time.
Yeah. Who's your favorite version?
Who was she in the 1974 one?
I can't remember, honestly.
She was just like an old lady.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta go with It hurts my heart to do this because I love Judi Dench, but I gotta go with Eileen Atkins.
Mm-hmm.
Eileen Atkins plays a crazy old bat better than anyone. Her portrayal, she's
Wendy Hiller in 1974.
Oh, she's Wendy Hiller. Oh my gosh.
You're a jerk.
I'm a jerk.
And
I love Wendy Hiller,
I'm a
too.
jerk for forgetting.
Wendy Hiller is in my favorite movie of all time.
Which is?
A Man for All Seasons.
Yes.
Well, I suppose the movie that is based on my favorite play of all time. We won't call it my favorite movie.
Yeah, we'll cover that in a future episode.
Yeah, we got to do it.
But getting back to Eileen Atkins, she's also my favorite for a reason I'll talk about after.
And if you
want
to see her as another very imposing old lady, please watch The Crown on Netflix.
Yes.
where she plays Queen Mary.
She's also an imposing older lady in Gosford Park.
She's an imposing older lady in everything. She's one of those people that's been old for a very long time.
And also imposing.
Yes.
For quite a while.
I'm going to have to go with Eileen Atkins.
Yeah, she's my favorite for a very specific reason.
Tell me why.
So in all of the versions, it's basically understood that Linda Arden, that the matriarch, she really got everybody together. In the 2010 one, it's a little more her. But it's not so much that she got everyone together instead of the mother. It seemed kind of like an equal partnership between them.
Yeah, and she sort of has the moral sort of force behind it.
Yeah. So to kind of skip ahead for a second, they all, let's just say how they kill Ratchet.
They stab him.
They all stab him one after another.
Right. So the mystery is, I'm just going to explain this for a second, if that's okay. The mystery is that he has 12 stab wounds, but they are all a little bit different. Some are right-handed, some are left-handed, some were delivered with a lot of force, some are like only a scratch. So it's like the doctor's looking at this going, I don't understand what this attack was. It seems really weird. And then it turns out the reason for that is because it's 12 different people.
Yeah, they all stabbed him once.
Yeah.
And so in the 2010 version, she's sitting there next to Ratchet the entire time as everyone's coming through one by one and stabbing him.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's
like
really in charge.
directing the scene.
That's my favorite version of the character.
Yeah, I like that.
I really, really like her in that.
Yeah, she's great.
So that's Princess Dragomirov.
We are halfway through.
Oh, yeah, we're doing great. We're doing great.
Okay, so next we're going to do 2 for 1.
Oh, good.
The Count and Countess Andrenier.
And they are diplomats, just traveling.
Yeah.
But in reality, the Countess Andreni is actually Sonia Armstrong's sister.
Younger sister.
And Daisy Armstrong's aunt.
Yes.
Who is American.
Yes.
But is pretending to be European.
Correct.
And she's
very fragile.
She's very fragile. Well, she's been through a lot. Her
She's
whole
been through a
family
lot.
died.
Yeah, they all died. Except her mom. Her mom's still around.
Her mom is still around.
And he's on the train.
And on the train with her, which is good.
Yeah.
Which is really, really good. Her husband is very protective of her.
Yes.
So protective, in fact, that now we call them all the suspects. And we also know they all did it.
Yes.
Except.
Well, in the book.
Yes.
So the canon is that they sort of treat the two of them as one person. She is innocent. She didn't do it. There is sort of a question of how much she was aware of the whole thing, but she did not stab the dude. And in the different versions, there's sort of a little bit of a difference as far as whether or not she was actually involved in the stabbing.
Now, I'm going to say this, and this might sound kind of weird. I don't really have a favorite version of this character.
No, she's very nothing. She's barely in it.
And I blame Agatha Christie for that. She's not much of a character. Yeah. She's very passive.
The Count too, he's like barely in it.
Well, except Michael York is my favorite version of him.
Right. But he's still, like, as I said at the beginning of the show, like, he still only has like 3 lines.
Yeah. Although the Count in the Kenneth Branagh version is Karate Count.
He is karate.
He's got flying roundhouse kicks and stuff.
He's karate ballet Count.
Oh, he's karate ballet Count. Yes, this is true.
Yes, he's a ballet dancer.
They turn. You know what? I'll say. 2017 is my favorite. I like them in 2017
because it gives him some sort of characteristic.
They are almost cartoon characters, but not quite, and it's done in a really good way.
Yeah,
I like the two of them in that one.
That's awesome.
Moving on.
Do you want to keep going?
Let's do it.
Number 8, Colonel Arbuthnot.
Ah, yes. And so who's he?
Sean Connery.
No, come on. Who is he?
Oh, he's like a colonel. Like that, we don't really know.
He's a colonel in the British Army.
He's a colonel in the British Army.
And he's traveling.
Yes, he's traveling like from India.
When in fact, he was actually very, very close friends with Armstrong.
Yeah, they were like best friends.
They were like best friends. He knows Masterman. He knows his Batman. And he
knew the whole family.
Yeah. And he's the one who says to Poirot, 12 people.
12 good men and true.
Like a jury. And that gives him the idea. He explains it to him so that he knows that he is in fact guilty of murder.
Does he do that in the book, or does he do it only in the Sean Connery version?
No, I'm pretty
I don't
sure.
remember it from
I think the
book.
jury line is in the book.
Is it? Okay.
I'm
Fair
pretty
enough.
sure it is.
Because I'm not sure that it is.
I'm giving myself a little bit of room to be little wiggle room to be wrong on this one, but I'm pretty sure that was in there.
But there's a line about 12 good men and true that is in the 2010 version, in the 1974 version and the 2010 version that is definitely not from the book. And also there's this whole backstory about like how he's getting divorced from his wife, which is, again, not from the book, but the 2010 version took it from the 1974 version.
Yeah.
As opposed to from the original source.
Right.
Yeah.
So he is, going back to your original point.
Yes.
Yes, he is Sean Connery.
Of course he is.
It's, the one line from all of these versions that sticks with me is at the very beginning when we see him getting on a boat and they ask him for his ticket and they ask him for his name and he just looks at him and with the most condescending manner ever just goes, Arbuthnot.
Welcome, Colonel Arbut, Arbut, Arbut.
Arbuthnot.
And I don't know why I think that's so funny, but he's an imposing figure.
Yeah,
He's really, Arbuthnot is kind of a loose cannon. He's really angry about a lot of different things because his best friend died. Like, I mean, it's understandable.
Yeah.
In the 2010, he's David Morrissey, who was great on Walking Dead, and he was in Doctor Who a little bit as well. In 2017, though, he's very different.
Yes.
Because he's not Colonel Arbuthnot.
You know what he's doing in 2017?
What's that?
He is not throwing away his shot.
No, he's not.
That is not the last Hamilton pun that's going to happen.
No.
It's actually not a pun, just a reference.
He's actually Dr. Arbuthnot, and he's played by
Leslie Odom Jr.
Leslie Odom Jr. from Hamilton. Yeah, Hamilton and now Murder on the Orient Express.
There's one scene where he is just standing on the boat with Daisy Ridley, and I was like, oh my God, Branagh knew what he was doing. He has all of the Hamilton fans and all of the Star Wars fans in this one shot.
It's very big. It's
He
very
is not
big in
throwing away.
2017.
He's not throwing away his shot.
No, he isn't. He isn't.
And also, he's willing to wait for it.
God damn it. Now let's talk about how he actually is in this.
Yes.
How good is he?
He's not great.
He's not great.
He's not great.
His British accent,
It's not great.
I didn't even know at first that he was supposed to be British.
It's not amazing.
It's not wonderful.
Now, they are able to they sort of use him like, I actually kind of appreciate it because they have cast people who are not in the 2017 version. They have cast people who are not all white, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also not treating it as if their race doesn't exist, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So they're bringing race into it.
Yes.
So they're treating him as people would have treated a black person in the 1930s, but in Europe, like not in America. In America, we're very prejudiced. But in Europe, I think it was a little bit...
We have a bit.
Yeah. I think in Europe, it was a little bit better, even at the time.
But bottom line...
Yeah.
He's not my favorite version of the character.
Well, his British accent's not very good.
I respect what they were doing, but Sean Connery's Sean Connery.
Sean Connery's amazing.
He's Arbuthnot. He embodies the character.
Yeah.
And I feel like every version they'll ever do of him is just going to be Sean Connery's version of the character because he's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's Arbuthnot.
But Arbuthnot in the 2017 version gets to be action Arbuthnot.
He does. He shoots Poirot.
Yes. In one might almost say a duel.
Not really a duel. Poirot does not have a gun.
But, his soldiers would tell you he's a terrible shot.
This is true.
But Hamilton was wearing his glasses.
Moving on. Moving on. Who's next?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's Miss Debenham.
It's not.
It's not Miss Debenham?
It's
Who's next?
Hardman P.I.
Hardman P.I. So he is... Who is he pretending to be? Wait, who is he pretending to be? And then who is he pretending to be? And then who is he really?
You lost me.
Well, he's on the train, and he's just a guy.
Oh, he's pretending to be just a guy.
Just a guy. But then it turns out...
He's Hardman. He's a Pinkerton.
He's a Pinkerton. He's a PI. And he was actually... Ratchet had hired him to protect him.
And he did a very bad job.
But then it turns out that he's actually in love. He was in love with the woman who was wrongly accused of aiding and abetting Cassetti.
Pierre Michel's daughter/sister.
And then she killed herself, and so that's his axe to grind
he's got
at this point. So he's pretending to be a guy, pretending to be another guy who's another guy.
Yes.
I don't think that adds up, but there we go.
It's very confusing.
He's not even in the 2010 version.
No, he's not in it.
He's replaced by the Doctor.
That's right.
That allows us to get to 12.
Yes.
But he's not even in it.
That's correct.
He is in the 1974 version. He's not much of anything.
Just a guy.
He's there.
But
yes, go on.
In 2017,
yes,
he's Willem Dafoe.
He's Willem Dafoe. And this is great because instead of just a guy pretending to be another guy,
he's a real weird guy.
He's a real weird guy. He's an ex-cop. So he was actually a cop that fell in love with this younger French woman. And he's pretending to be a PI.
Who's pretending to be a German professor.
Austrian.
Oh, excuse me.
A racist Austrian professor. It's really great when you find out that he's not Austrian.
Yeah, like racist Austrians have done a lot of bad for this world.
Yeah. Yeah, this is true. And it's
Yeah.
the 30s, and
Yeah.
I think they do a good job with that. But Willem Dafoe's great. I
Yeah.
think he plays the character beautifully. My favorite scene of his is when he finally reveals to Poirot that he's not Austrian
And slips
he's
out of his
American.
accent.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's really,
It's
really,
like,
really good.
I'm from New York.
So that's Hardman.
Yes.
That's Hardman. Who's next?
The Italian.
The Italian.
Foscarelli.
Foscarelli.
So he is he owns like car dealerships.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. He's Italian American and he owns car dealerships.
But in reality was the driver for the Armstrongs.
Da, da, da!
He was their chauffeur.
In the 2017 version, he's not Foscarelli. He had Marquez, yes. And so he is actually Hispanic.
Yes.
Yes.
This is true.
Yeah.
My favorite version of him was actually in the 2010 version.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you why.
Tell me.
Because he was played by an actor named Joseph Mall. He's in Game of Thrones. That's why I like him.
Cool.
He's Benjen Stark.
Cool.
He's my favorite because of that.
That's fine.
I just really like him in that.
Let's move along.
He's not much of anything in any of the versions. He's a minor character, and he's there.
He's just there.
But I like him in that one. I
Okay.
like he has a really great scene on the train where he's telling them that he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's just I really like him in that scene.
Yeah.
I really, really like him in that scene.
Well, there's a lot of like, you think I'm part of, there's sort of the mafia is a red herring in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Much like communism.
Much like communism.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Number 11. We're almost there. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
we're doing great.
Miss Debenham.
Ooh.
So who she is pretending to be is an English governess who has been teaching children in Baghdad, who is going home to London to visit her family or whatever.
But in reality,
reality-
was the governess for Daisy Armstrong.
Da-da-da!
And she's very mad about the whole thing.
Yes.
Also, separately, is in love with Colonel Arbuthnot.
Colonel Arbuthnot.
Yeah.
Who in the 2017 version, there's a whole thing because he's black and she's
Yes.
white. And how would this ever be?
So the funny thing is, my favorite version of Arbuthnot is Sean Connery.
Yes.
But my favorite version of Debenham is not Vanessa Redgrave
Same.
from that version.
No, they didn't. That is, and this is just going to be like a little segment right here. That female character is a little underrated.
And I think that's the perfect time to talk about it.
Yay!
Please go on.
No, I don't actually have that much to say. But in the book, she's a super strong character. She's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting. She's definitely like the main suspect. And basically in the 1974 version, she's Vanessa Redgrave. So they have Vanessa Redgrave to work with, and all they give her to do is she just like looks up at Sean Connery and giggles adoringly.
Yeah.
Like that
And-
is the only thing that she does.
And maybe Vanessa Redgrave actually was doing that on set.
yeah.
But that is not an excuse.
Wait, really?
I don't know.
Did they have is this a famous thing?
No, he's Sean Connery.
Did they have an affair?
I have no idea. I just know he's Sean Connery.
So, yes.
I was making a joke. I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
actually
I
trying to
thought
say
this was
that
like a
something
known
untoward
thing.
was going
Well,
on.
untoward, like they're two consenting adults.
They're not. We don't know that they're consenting to anything. This is getting off the rails right now. Anyway,
Adapt or perish after dark.
Oh my God. So basically, this is where we turn into 1974 TMZ or something like
Yeah,
that.
right.
So I agree.
She's
she
not
is,
my favorite.
She is
She's
underwritten.
not my fave. But just in that version, because the 2010 version, she's Jessica Chastain, and she's got a lot to say.
She's my favorite version.
2017, she's Daisy Ridley. She's my favorite version.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Wait, no. Daisy Ridley is my favorite version.
Ah.
I don't know why I said Jessica Chastain.
Ah.
She's good.
No, stick
she's
with her
good.
so we can disagree.
No, I don't want to disagree because Daisy Ridley is my favorite because she's so much more intelligent.
She's great.
She's great.
Yeah.
She's like Poirot's equal.
Yeah.
She's someone who really understands what's going on. He uses her as a sounding board for so many different, so many of his ideas to find out what she thinks about what's going on.
Yeah.
She's great. She's really independent, and she's Daisy Ridley. She's great.
And she's in love with Leslie Odom Jr.
Yeah. No.
It's really cute.
So my favorite Arbuthnot is Sean Connery, but my favorite Debenham is Daisy Ridley.
Cool. Number 12.
Oh, goodness.
The German lady's maid, Frau Schmidt.
She is Dragomirov's
She's
attendant,
Dragomirov's lady's maid.
who was in fact
The cook.
the cook for the Armstrongs.
And Poirot tricks her into revealing that information in a very stupid way.
It was a little dumb. It was a little dumb.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite version of Frau
Ooh,
Schmidt?
I would have to say, I like the 2010 version.
Yeah.
She's got more to do than any of the other ones.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that my favorite version is Olivia Colman from the 2017 version.
Cool.
I really, really like her. Oh, God, no. I got to go back. 1974. She's my favorite.
Oh, really?
She's my favorite because
Wait, who's that?
I love the scene when Poirot tricks her.
Oh, okay. So there's a moment in the 1974 one that Jeremy and I have been reenacting all week. So Poirot in this version, they have clearly like stuffed him. He's in like kind of a padded suit. I don't think that's his real body.
I don't think so.
If it is, I'm very sorry that I'm about to make fun of it, but I really don't think it is. And she's like the last person that he interrogates. She kind of brings everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And Poirot in this version, has an insight. And he gets really excited. And he thrusts his finger up into the air and goes, "I must speak to the maid."
Go back to the Pullman and tell Pierre to summon Colonel about 35 minutes. I want a word with the maid.
Yes, Poirot.
And starts running down the corridor of the train, except because he's basically in a fat suit, he starts waddling like a penguin with his little arms outstretched.
He has previously been compared to Mr. Creosote
Yeah.
from Monty Python's and the Meaning of Life.
I compared him to that.
No, I also read that.
Oh, did you read that?
Yes.
Because I said that.
You're not the only one who's done that.
Okay, but do you remember that I said that?
Yeah, I do.
Cool. So he goes, "I must speak to the maid," and like run down the corridor, and it's really, really funny.
It's really cute.
It's very hard to depict that in audio form, but if you can find the clip like on YouTube or something, like,
God damn it, you're going to try.
please watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in 1974, that's my favorite version of her, kind of the way she reacts to the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
But Olivia Colman's my favorite versions of the character because I just really like her as an actress.
Cool.
In 2017.
She was in like Hot Fuzz and stuff, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
A lot of British comedy.
Hey, that's all of them.
That's all of them.
We did it.
Holy shit.
We did it. It only took 3.5 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry we went a little over. We apologize for that.
Hey, I have a question.
What's that?
Do you want to talk about the man himself, Hercule Poirot?
Right after we do our segment, Sir Not Appearing in this film.
Dun dun dun. Who's your nominee?
I have none because everybody's in every version.
I agree
It's
with
insane.
you. I agree with you. There's
It's
no one who's left
crazy.
out.
I wanted to mention the segment because I like it, but holy shit, everyone's
We just
in all
want
of them.
you to know that unlike several other previous episodes, we have not forgotten to do the segment. There's just literally no one that we can cover.
I will say the Doctor is Sir Not Appearing in the 2017 version because they turn Arbuthnot into the Doctor.
But he's not that interesting.
But the
so
Doctor was my favorite character in 74 and
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah.
And so it bummed me out that he wasn't in this one because I really like him.
I'm very sorry.
So,
I'm very
yeah, Sir Not Appearing in this
Yeah.
film was the Doctor in 2017.
Fine.
Let's talk about the man himself, Hercule Poirot.
Poirot. So I have something to say
Yes.
about Poirot's mustaches.
Yes.
In the book,
We're going to be as superficial as possible right off the bat.
I just want to say mustaches as often as possible
Yes.
because it really delighted me throughout.
Mhm.
So basically, Poirot has. I just want to say in the book, the way that he's described is he has the way that he sees the note about the burnt note about Daisy Armstrong, the way that he is able to create fire is because he has curling tongs, which he has to explain to the others are for the mustaches. But Poirot's mustaches are described at the beginning of the book as, I'm paraphrasing, but basically they are large enough that they would interfere with him eating soup.
Mhm.
It says he has to concentrate on keeping his mustaches out of the soup.
Mhm. Which, if you've seen any version of him, any popular version,
They're like small waxed mustaches.
I feel like the David Suchet version is the version everyone thinks of.
Yes.
And they're very tiny.
They're very tiny. So to anyone who objects to the mustaches spread across Kenneth Branagh's face like so many spiders' legs, I would only say I refer you to Agatha Christie's original text. Kenneth Branagh's are my favorite mustaches.
They are my favorite. He is my favorite Poirot.
He's my favorite too. This is going to be really controversial.
Like,
He's my favorite.
I said I wouldn't get into too much detail with this. However, I'm just going to say this really briefly. There were some negative reviews of this movie.
It was amazing.
And I don't understand because I loved it.
It was so good. And we're not even coming from it from the point of view of like, oh, we don't know anything about the Orient Express. We watched all of them.
Yeah. I will say, I think we should go through all of them. Albert Finney,
It's ridiculous.
I think he is ridiculous most of the time in a good way.
Yeah.
There's some parts that are really lovely. I will say this. he feels like a British actor playing a caricature of a character from an Agatha Christie book.
Yeah.
He never feels like the definitive version of this character for me.
And I will say that all of them in that version are like that. That version is very heightened. My note on the 1974 version is everyone is real suspicious.
Yes.
There's a lot of dun dun dun, you know? So I don't fault Albert Finney for being real weird because everyone in that version is pretty heightened.
I just think, because there's many stories involving Poirot,
Yeah.
I can't imagine watching 10 movies starring Albert Finney as Poirot.
No, that's too many.
I don't think there's a lot of places for the character to go based on the way he plays him.
No, there's not a lot of internal life in that character.
He's just a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
And a little finicky.
But super enjoyable to watch.
Oh, very fun.
Remember when he put the conductor's hat on?
Oh, that was my favorite part.
Yeah.
You liked when he said, I have to talk to the maid.
I must speak to the maid.
I must speak to the maid. I like when he put the hat on.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
David Suchet, he is Poirot.
Yeah.
And
he
his version of the character goes on a journey.
That's exactly what I was about to say. He goes on a journey.
Yeah. So
it's about him. It's about his conscience.
They do something really good. So in the 2010 version, they do something that they can only do in this version, which is play off of what you know of him from all the other times he's appeared as Poirot.
Right.
He can go on an arc. He can be old, crotchety Poirot who is much more negative, much more cynical, much more unwilling to let these people go.
Right.
Much more unwilling to understand their point of view.
Right. Because to be clear, in the book, basically what happens is there's this theory that some unknown actor got on the train, dressed up in a conductor's uniform so as not to create suspicion, stabbed the guy, and jumped off the train while they were still stopped. Oh, we have not said this yet. The train is stopped in a snowbank.
Yes.
So no one can get on, no one can get off. It's just these 12 people. I don't know if that was clear. But so the one theory is the guy kind of jumped on at a station, stabbed the guy. There's a way to make it kind of make sense with the facts that are in evidence, that there's someone that is not there that came on the train, stabbed the guy, and jumped off the train and is no longer there. The second theory is, of course, the correct one, which is that this was all a setup. Everyone's there on purpose. They realized where he was going. They made it their business to be there all on the train, which is why the train is so crowded in the first place. It's not a coincidence that they're all connected to this crime, and they all stabbed him one by one in sort of a ritual murder. And so Poirot at the end in the book goes, here are the two possibilities. When we finally get off, and they're in Yugoslavia, and they don't want to be questioned by the Yugoslav police. That is something that they're trying to avoid. But when we finally get to the next station in Broad, no, they've already been to Broad. I don't know where they're going. It doesn't matter. When we get to the next station and the police come on the train, we'll just tell them this first version because you guys are right. This guy actually deserved to die. I accept your mob justice in this way.
But in 2010...
Well, in 2010 and 2017, there is a journey that Poirot has to go on internally to get to that point where he's willing to accept that.
Whereas in 1974, it's just like the book.
It's just like the book.
Yeah, he gets where everybody's coming from. And in 2010... it's up in the air whether he's going to let them get away with it.
Well, it's also up in the air whether they're going to murder him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real dark.
Yeah.
It's real dark. I will say this. Yeah, go on.
So I'm just going to say, like, the like literally the one note I have, speaking of A Man for All Seasons, is I wrote Poirot is Thomas More. He's not wrong. What he's saying to them is there is a rule of law. If you take law into your own hands, then we have nothing.
Yeah.
Like you have to, and they're saying, but there's a higher law. There's what's right, and then there's the law. And he's saying, yeah, but the law is the law. Like we have to do the thing that otherwise where would we be?
Right. So I will say this about 2010.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
No, it's hard to watch.
Poirot's not fun.
He is troubled.
It is extremely good.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about the 2010, it has my favorite script of all of them.
The other thing about 2010 is that it is much more clear how they are uncomfortable. They are cold. The water has stopped. They're running out of food. Like that's the only one where it seems like they are physically in any peril.
In 1974, they're just, we're on this nice train.
And dinner's being served.
Yeah. But he's dark.
Yeah.
It's I want to say this. It's not my favorite version, but it makes perfect sense given the way it fits in with the whole era of David Suchet as Poirot.
Yeah.
I think it really makes sense.
It's part of his journey.
I only want to talk for 1 or 2 minutes about the fact that we actually went back and watched an episode of the Poirot TV show
Go for it.
from the late 80s because neither of us had ever seen any of it and we wanted a little context.
Well, because there were a couple of things that we were like, we had questions about. Like Poirot, he talks about himself in the third person a lot. And we were like, we should probably figure out whether or not that's something he always does. Which we couldn't really reach a conclusion on that.
So we were trying to find out what to start with.
Yeah.
And so I found an article, I'll link to it in the show notes, of someone said, these are the best episodes of Poirot. And I looked through to find something from like the first or second season, the highest rated one. And we found one that he says, this is the first episode I ever saw. And this is the one I recommend that everybody starts with.
And we
watched it. And it was boring as shit.
It was really boring.
And I don't understand
also,
why.
I refer you to our Instagram. There's a little clip of it on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. Go back to our Instagram.
Yeah.
Everyone should follow us on Instagram. It's really, really good.
Go for it.
So.
Or Twitter. I'm killing it on Twitter recently.
I am sure that the rest of it as a whole is much better than what we saw.
Yeah.
But we saw one and it wasn't really conclusive.
It was like nothing.
And if anybody thinks there are other episodes we should start with, let us know.
Because wait, what was the one that we watched? It was like the mystery of the cheap apartment or something like that.
It was like the adventure of the cheap flat.
Yeah, the cheap flat.
Yeah.
And we kept losing interest and then coming back to it going, wait, what happened? Like,
what is the mystery? Why is he concerned with any of this?
We were not. It was unclear.
The only thing I liked about it is that Porkins from Star Wars was in it. And he was Eckhart in Batman. I like him.
I'm happy for you.
So then we get to Kenneth Branagh.
Oh my God.
Kenny Branagh.
Cleverly disguising the fact that he has no upper lip with a giant mustache.
Giant mustaches.
Mustaches.
Yeah.
Because Kenneth Branagh has no upper lip, right? Like that's a thing that people are
No,
aware of.
I do know about that.
Yeah.
I do know about that. He is my favorite version of the character.
He's my favorite version of every character he's ever played.
He's really, really good. His introduction in the movie is better than any of the other versions.
So
his reasons for doing the things he's doing are better than any versions. I will say that he makes a choice because Poirot is always portrayed as being, in the book, is portrayed as being very eccentric.
Yes.
And very fickle.
Yes.
And very finicky.
Yes. So
and in this one, he decided to make the choice that this was based on his obsessive compulsion.
Right. Although there are other versions where what he's asking for is like 2 eggs exactly the same size.
Yes.
Like that he needs things to be balanced. Balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really, really like that version of it.
I think it's great.
I read one review of it that said that this was kind of cheap and cheapened the character.
Disagree.
And I thought that was bullshit.
Yeah.
It is my favorite version of the character, and they are going to make Death on the Nile.
Yay!
And I'm really excited about it.
We'll do it for the podcast.
This is a Poirot that I could see myself watching for a really, really long time.
The one thing that I didn't like was that they gave him like a former love interest.
Yeah.
That he just kept sort of referring to. He had her photograph.
Yeah.
I think Poirot is kind of sexless. Like I like Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about the 2001 version.
Yeah. Sherlock Holmes, I think of him as being like asexual.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that you need to interject like a random past love. It didn't add anything for me to the movie. Although I turned to you and I was like, are we sure Poirot's into women? And then it was like this beautiful woman. I was like, damn it.
I was actually really excited that maybe he wasn't.
Yeah.
And they were either going to leave it ambiguous or make it more specific and let us know he wasn't.
I bet there's fan fiction out there.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah. But I don't actually think Poirot should be in love with anyone.
He's in love with the truth.
Yes.
The truth.
Yes, exactly. I mean, think about it this way. Like, sex is really messy. Do you think that's something Poirot would even be into?
God, no.
Yeah.
No, absolutely
Same
not.
with Sherlock Holmes,
Everything
actually.
would have to be equal and even, and that's not how sex works.
I mean, actually, that would be great. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Please continue.
Our parents listen to this.
all 4 of our parents listen to this.
Shit. So...
Actually, no, I don't think my mom listens.
So that's just kind of an overview of all of them.
Yeah.
But I will say, Suchet, I understand why he is the Poirot.
Mm-hmm.
But having read the book, Kenneth Branagh is my favorite.
Totally.
He is my favorite.
He's my favorite too, and I think this is going to be controversial, but he's my favorite too.
Yeah. Maybe if we go back and watch all of the Poirot starring David Suchet,
we just have to start at the beginning.
We'll get an attachment to him that other people have, but based just on this, Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So that's Poirot, the character. Do you have anything else to say about Poirot himself? I have a couple quick things.
No, I don't have anything else to say about Poirot. Oh, can I say the line from the Kenneth Branagh version that I identified with, like, uncontrollably?
Yes.
So, there's a scene where he is eating cake with Johnny Depp. A of all, I wanted that cake so badly.
It looked really good.
It looked so good. I was really hungry. But the line is, I'm not even going to attempt to do the accent, but the line is something to the effect of,
You're an odd bird there. You're a strange, peculiar man.
I am of an age where I know what I like and what I do not like. What I like or enjoy enormously. What I dislike, I cannot abide.
You started crying when he said that. It's like you learned something about yourself. It was a really special moment. I'm really glad to have shared it with you.
it's true.
No, that was great. There was a couple. The other things I wanted to say were about lines, because I feel like the line that a lot of people have made fun of that was in the trailer for this, and I want to talk about the trailer for a
Yeah, go
second
ahead.
too, was, "My name is Hercule Poirot, and I am probably the greatest detective in the world."
Yes.
That's from one of the books.
Yeah.
That's from The Mystery of the Blue Train. I didn't know that was actually from the books.
Now we know.
It's not from Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah, well.
And
Which
I
just goes to show that the people that wrote the script had read more than one of the Poirot books,
yeah,
which is
and
good.
I will say really quickly about the person that wrote the script. He did very well last year. This was Michael Green.
Mm-hmm.
He was also nominated for an Oscar this year for Best Adapted Screenplay.
For what?
Logan,
Oh!
the Wolverine movie.
Holy crap.
So he's doing very well for
What
himself.
was that adapted from?
A comic book.
Oh. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because Wolverine's from comics.
Well, I didn't know that story was a comic book.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's called Old
told
Man
me
Logan.
you told me I wouldn't enjoy it, so I didn't go to see it.
You wouldn't enjoy it. It's very violent.
There
And
it
Patrick
is.
Stewart's in it, but it's very, very violent.
There it is.
I don't think you would like it
I
very
probably
much.
not.
We should watch it, though. I enjoyed it a great deal.
Okay.
So that screenwriter did very well for himself, and he's coming back for Death on the Nile.
Cool.
But, yeah, 2017 is my favorite. But I think before we say anything definitive about any of them,
Yeah.
let's place all of these on the quadrant.
Okay, go for it.
So let's start with 1974.
Okay.
So the first thing we have to ask is, do you think the people who made this movie cared about the source material?
No.
You don't think they did?
Mm-mm.
What do you think their reasoning was for making this?
I think they thought, what we want to do, like something with a bunch of people in it. What's a big cast?
What's a prestige movie
What's a
we can make?
prestige movie we can make?
Yeah. Do you think they were successful?
I think they were reasonably successful.
I think they were very successful.
Yeah, I think they were. I mean, were they successful in making an enjoyable film? Yeah, absolutely.
And it's Agatha Christie. I think that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I would say it is firmly right on the line
Yeah.
between cared about it and didn't.
Mhm.
I don't think they didn't care about
Yeah,
it.
no, that's fair.
But I don't think they...
It didn't feel cynical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really didn't feel cynical. So I'd say it's right on the line as cared and didn't care. But I absolutely think it's successful. I
Totally.
really think it's successful.
Totally.
2010. Do you think they cared about the source material?
Yes, 100%.
I don't think you could argue that they didn't.
There's no. I mean, they've now been doing this for like decades.
It is very clear. And the thing that tells me that they care deeply about the source material is two things. One, it was the best script of any of the versions we watched.
Yeah.
It made the most sense. It was the clearest interpretation of the original book. But two, it also made really substantial changes.
Yeah.
And they all felt perfectly organic.
Totally.
They really did. I think it's clear that they actually really care about
Of
the
course,
original.
yeah, and like of course they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think very successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I think both of those.
It's really good.
And then we get to 2017.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as clear that they care about the original as much as they did in 2010.
Like it's not the thing that it's not Kenneth Branagh's passion for decades.
No.
But I think
They were going to make it and then they hired him.
Oh, really?
This
Okay, I
wasn't
didn't know
something
that.
Yeah, this was something the studio was
Okay.
already going to do, and then they got him, and then it was announced to direct, and then it was announced he was going to star in it.
Yeah.
So, I think he found something in it, but it never sounded like this was a passion project
Yeah,
for him.
but I still think it was something that I think he probably I can't imagine Kenneth Branagh being cynical about like, oh, I don't even care, like I'm not going to, like I think he wanted to do it justice.
He brought his A game.
Yeah,
he
100%.
definitely did.
So it could be a little bit further towards the middle, but definitely still on the side of cared.
Yeah, I think they cared, not as much as in 2010.
Yeah.
But I also think they were incredibly successful.
I agree with that.
So I think all of these sit in
Yeah.
that upper right quadrant.
Well, I think this is a first for our podcast.
Yeah, they're all good.
They're all good and they all cared.
All of the versions we watched, they at least cared a little.
Yeah.
And they were all good.
So that's it, right? That's it. We're done.
Oh my God. You need to hang on for 1 second.
Should I hang on to my butt?
Plot twist. Plot twist.
Yes.
So there's another version.
Oh no. What are you talking about? I didn't see any other version.
In 2001.
I didn't watch it.
There was a version of Murder on the Orient Express that was produced for TV, starring Alfred Molina.
Oh, well, I'm sure that was good.
Alfred, throw me the idol, I'll throw you the whip, Molina.
I don't know what that is.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
As Hercule Poirot.
Alfred Dr. Octopus Molina.
Dr. Octopus. Good job.
I didn't remember what his name was.
Yep. No, you were halfway there, and then you doubted yourself. You shouldn't have. You got there.
Wait, what's correct?
Alfred Tevye Molina.
I saw that production.
Yeah, he's very good.
Yes.
He is very tall.
He's very tall.
He's a very imposing figure.
Mm-hmm. He's British.
So I'm going to tell you a number of things.
He's British.
He is British.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a number of things about this version that I watched.
I didn't watch it.
Now, you watched the reveal.
Yeah.
We watched the end together.
And I said, what the F is this?
So I watched the whole thing. It's on YouTube. I will link to it. I can't promise that link will be up forever, but it doesn't seem like there's any other way to get it. So here are some things. I want to talk about this movie in a few different categories. First things first, let's talk about how it deals with time. It does not take place in the 30s.
No, well, I was watching, when you showed me the little clip of it, I was confused because I was like, I'm very confused by the costumes. Is this present day? And then somebody took out a cell phone?
Yes. So it is present day, 2001.
Yeah.
Now, that's the crazy part. It's 2001. It looks like it's 1989.
Yeah. No, I thought that's what was so confusing.
Yeah. So it's 2001. Here are some things about it. I'm going to tell you the beginning of the movie. So I'm telling you about this for the first time.
I have not heard any of this.
So
this is not a bit. I have not heard this.
In the beginning of the movie, we see Poirot solving a case. It's the end. Everyone's in front of him, and he is revealing everything to the people involved. And the very first line of this one is, "A beautiful belly dancer receives a fax." That is the first line of the movie.
Wait, that's Poirot's line?
That's Poirot's line.
Oh my God.
That's the first line of the movie.
Oh my God.
When he's getting on the train, so he's getting on the Orient Express, and you're kind of led to believe that there really aren't that many trains like this that operate anymore because it's from a bygone era. And he says, "This is the age I belong to, my friend, a vanished age of elegance and refinement," which I'm sure the writers thought was a clever reference to the original.
Yeah.
But all it does is make you realize that this is stupid and shouldn't exist, and Poirot is from that time. And if you can't afford to make a period piece, maybe you shouldn't be making this. So that's one thing right there.
That is a hard opinion.
A couple other little things.
Okay.
So one of the clues when he finds Ratchet's body is a pipe cleaner.
Right.
This is Arbuthnot's pipe cleaner.
A peep.
No one ever says that.
They say it in the 1974 version a whole bunch.
I don't think they ever say peep.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Well, I'll have to go back and watch
They
it.
say peep so many times. He says your peep, and then Sean Connery, as if to mock him, says back, yes,
Oh,
my
yeah.
peep.
I forgot about that. Yep. No, you're absolutely right. So in this version, it's not a pipe cleaner. It's a PDA stylus.
Oh, no.
So they really do a lot to bring technology into it.
It's a PDA stylus?
Yep, absolutely. Another thing they find, another clue. What was another clue they found by the body?
A handkerchief.
They find a handkerchief with the initial H.
Oh. Which turns out to stand for Natalia.
Yeah, in the Russian.
In the Russian.
In this version, they find a handkerchief. But someone has the line,
oh no.
"It's 2001, Mr. Poirot. Who carries around a handkerchief anymore?" As if to remind us, it is 2001.
Oh my God.
So the note about Daisy Armstrong.
This is painful just listening to
It's
you.
great. It was so much fun. The note about Daisy Armstrong that was left for Ratchet to let him know who it was that was going to murder him that night, that Poirot was never supposed to see, was a VHS tape.
No.
And Ratchet gets it.
But
and
why doesn't anyone say, it's 2001, Mr. Poirot, we don't have VHS tapes anymore?
Well, they do on this train. There is a TV with a built-in VHS player in the main
I guess
car.
we did still have VHS tapes in
We sure did.
2001.
Yeah, definitely.
We did.
DVD hadn't blown up everywhere yet.
No, I will say the first time I saw a DVD was in 2000. It was The Matrix. Please continue.
Go. So the whole idea is Ratchet, the note is burned so that Poirot doesn't know what the connection is.
And he has to put it in a hat box.
He has to put it in a hat box to figure out what it is. Watch one of the versions and you'll know what we're talking about. In this version, Ratchet gets the VHS tape in the dining car,
God.
and he just smashes it on the ground and gives it to someone to throw away.
What?
And there's a whole scene where Poirot says to one of the people who work on the train, "Go to the garbage and get me the VHS tape." And they bring it back to him, and it's supposed to be this scene that is as cool as him using wire mesh from a hat box to burn a note to reveal the hidden text within it. It's
Yeah.
basically just him taking a pencil and rewinding the VHS tape into it, which isn't fucking impressive at all.
Like,
He's-
everyone's done that.
He's not the greatest detective in the world. If that's what makes you the greatest detective, I am the greatest detective in the world because I grew up in the 90s. That makes me the greatest detective in the world.
Babe, I feel like this
And
is your
no,
tight 5.
Hang on. It gets better because he then says the line to Book, who's German in this one.
Okay.
Well, my friend, in our quest for the truth, we will test the limits of technology.
Oh, no.
It's amazing. It's great. This is my final thing about time.
Okay.
The people who made this do not understand how technology works, especially digital video. So he finds out a lot of information about the Armstrong case
Yeah.
by searching for it online
no.
on a laptop.
From the train.
And of course, when you search for something online, you don't get a bunch of text. You get a nice grid of videos.
Oh, no.
And you can just click on them and they immediately play in 2001 on a train, which is not how the world works. It really feels like the precursor to like CSI and bullshit like that on CBS.
Oh my God.
It's real bad. Let's talk about the suspects. Couple things.
Is this a monologue?
Yes. Well, I put all of this down.
Yeah.
I put it in an order.
You did a great job.
It's in an order.
You did a great job.
Arbuthnot.
Yes.
He's not a colonel. He owns a software company named Digisaurus.
No.
And Armstrong created a piece of software called Whizbang. They were roommates in college. That's their connection.
Oh, no.
It's ridiculous. Mrs. Hubbard, she's not a world-famous actress who's pretending to be a nobody. She's a nobody who is a B-list actress who was on a sitcom once. She tells Poirot she was an actress. It's not a reveal that she's an actress. And later in the awesome epilogue that I'll get to in a second, it's revealed that she is now in a stage production, like a community theater stage production of The Mousetrap
Oh my God.
by Agatha Christie.
No.
Oh
No, I saw that part.
She's just there. Foscarelli is in it. He is a fitness nut in this one. He was the personal trainer for the Armstrongs.
Oh my God.
The Hungarians are now adventurers from Monaco. That's their whole thing. Now, Princess Dragomirov
Okay.
is now Senora Alvarado. She was married. She's South American and was married to a despot.
Yeah.
She was friends with a ballet dancer named Dragomirov, and he gave her the handkerchief, and that explains why the H.
Oh my God.
And she's Leslie Caron.
Yeah, so explain. So she's French,
She is French, playing South
American,
American,
who's really supposed to be Russian.
who is supposed to be Russian the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
It's really stupid. And finally, about the suspects, there are 8 of them. They're not 12. So that whole thing's gone.
Do you remember when I read the book?
Mhm.
Like the first thing I said to you was, every single if an adaptation, if there's not 12 suspects, I'm gonna be really mad.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's supposed to be a jury. It's
And
supposed to be 12 people.
And we watched the end of this, and you were mad.
I was mad.
Yep. One other last thing about the suspects. There's a scene where they all have they're getting each other's alibis, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They're all hanging out, and we see scenes of them hanging out in one of the train cars, in one of the compartments. And Poirot's like asleep. He's gone. And they're all fake hanging out, I guess, because they all know each other. And they're not doing this to perform for anybody. No one is present in the scene who doesn't know what they're actually doing. So there's no reason for it to happen. It doesn't make any sense to me. So story changes.
Yeah.
It's not snow. They couldn't afford snow.
Oh my God.
It's a rock slide. So there's some rocks on the tracks and they
There's
can't
like,
get by.
Oh no, you showed me that it's like a rock and a
Yeah.
stick. It's like a rock and a stick.
They completely didn't understand the plan. The writers of this did not understand the plan from the book, and they fuck it up all the time. It's really bad. And Mr. Book is German now. So those are some big changes. Here's some stuff about Poirot. He does refer to himself in the third person.
Okay.
Which David Suchet does as well. And that was 9 years later. So that's clearly a thing. We still don't have anything definitive about that.
Yeah.
There is a scene where he says, "Someone is playing with my mind, my little gray cells," which is from the books.
Yeah.
Like, that's a thing Poirot says. So at least they knew that.
Yeah.
That was good. But now we come to my favorite category to tell you about this, and that is bullshit. Here's a bunch of bullshit. Do you want a bunch of bullshit? 'Cause
Yeah, go for it.
here's
I mean,
some
I
bullshit.
think you want to tell me.
Okay, first of all, there is a scene when someone says, "It's the most famous train in the world, the Orient Express." Okay, I might be presumptuous when I say this, but I'm pretty sure the only reason that everyone knows the Orient Express is because of Murder on the fucking Orient Express. That's the entire reason everybody knows about it. So you can't have one of your characters say that. He asks Arbuthnot for a laptop. Arbuthnot is on his laptop and he says, I need to borrow your laptop. And he's like, why would I give it to you? You're accusing me of murder. And he says, well, I'm borrowing it anyway. And he goes, fine. And gives it to him. He does all of his research for the entire case on one of the suspect's laptops. He just gives it to him. It's really stupid. Now, you before said that the Armstrong case was like the OJ trial, right? Guess what they refer to?
Oh, God.
Someone says, it was the biggest case since OJ.
Oh,
But Poirot doesn't know about it. He has to learn about it on the internet. So it makes Poirot look stupid and uninformed. It's really dumb. Now, here's the biggest bullshit.
Okay, go ahead.
We all remember the character of Vera from the book, right?
Nope.
So this is Poirot's love interest. We meet her in the first scene, and then she shows up again in the last scene.
Oh, she's the real sexy lady.
She's the sexy lady who's in love with Poirot, and she says, oh my God, this is so stupid.
Go ahead.
We've always been fascinating to each other. I'm doing the accent. We've always been fascinating to each other. The world-famous detective and the never-quite-reformed jewel thief. Think how much fun you'll have trying to catch me. She's trying to convince him to stay in Istanbul with her. That's Vera. She's real stupid.
Oh, my God.
Okay, and then... Okay, hang on.
I'm literally in pain.
Oh, so in the very last scene when she shows up to meet him, she has flown out to meet him at the end of his journey.
Yeah.
And she says, we need to be together. And they get back on the train together.
Ugh.
He says, as it happens, a compartment has just become available next to mine with a connecting door.
So the
Like,
dead man's compartment.
A man was fucking murdered in that room, and he's bringing his lady friend on there.
To bone.
To bone. It's really bad. There's a great montage for the epilogue. He tells you what happened to all of the characters.
It's all stupid. You did show me this part.
It's really, really stupid. And this is the saddest part.
Okay.
The very last line of the entire thing. This is all Poirot talking in voiceover.
Yeah.
Perhaps, in due course, our further adventures will present themselves for your attention. They did not.
No.
They did not. This is clearly a pilot.
Yeah.
It never took off.
Thank God.
All for the best.
Yeah.
It is bad. It's very bad.
It's bad and bad.
So I had a lot of fun with that.
I'm
And-
glad I didn't watch it because it sounds terrible.
I think you would have had some fun watching it, actually.
Yeah, well.
But I understand. So that brings us to the end.
Yeah.
So this was so much fun.
This was so much fun. This might have been my favorite episode that we've done, just in terms of like the stuff that we watched and read.
We got to enjoy all of it.
Yeah, it was
Virtually all of it.
awesome.
And even the really bad one, I had a lot of fun watching. It
Yeah.
was really, really fun. I am actually going to go out and I'm going to say everyone should read this book.
Yep.
It doesn't take very long. And everyone should watch every version of
Yes,
this.
this is great.
Watch all of them. They are all fun in all their different ways. 2017's my favorite.
Yeah.
But they're all great and they're all worth watching.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
And we're going to link to all of them, even the 2001 version, which is also worth watching.
Maybe don't watch that
because
one.
it's free on YouTube and everyone should watch it. So yeah, do you have anything final to say?
No.
Did we crack the case?
I think we cracked it.
Oh.
We cracked it. We have solved the murder,
Yeah.
and our mustaches didn't get in the soup.
Right.
Do you want to tell people how they can get in touch with us?
As always, you can get in touch with us in a number of different ways. You can find us on the web at adaptorperishcast.com. You can email us at adaptorperishcast@gmail.com. And you can find us on social media on Twitter and Instagram at AdaptCast. We always love to hear from you. We love to hear your corrections. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes, please let us know about those. We are very excited about the direction we're going in. We just planned out our next few, and we're really excited about some of the ones we're going to talk about.
Totally.
It's going to be great. As always, thank you very much for hanging out with us, and we can't wait to talk to you in 2 weeks.
Talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.